Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today, spawning in the northwest corner of the map, playing in blue, we have got Puppypaw, playing as the Jeanne faction, and his opponent in the southeast, playing in red, we have got Wham, playing as the Holy Roman Empire. Welcome everyone to Dry Arabia. Two great civilizations, two great players, they're both brothers of course, and going head to head today on Dry Arabia. Interesting civilization matchup. I do like this because it kind of gives me the vibes of the old HRE versus French matchup, but of course, Jeanne's a little bit different. Having said that, some familiar units going to be out in the field relatively soon, I suspect. Those French Royal Knights going to be looking to harass the gold veins that are there for Wham, which actually is kind of really bad positioning for him because, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting, right? Because you got the marching drills for free now for HRE instantly, so it feels like they can do a little bit better actually in this matchup than they once used to. Of course, the French or Jeanne d'Arc will come in with knights and try and deny any sort of fast castle play, but we have been seeing a sort of an extended feudal age play from the HRE a little bit more often. But one of the reasons why I like this matchup in many ways is because, of course, a lot of civilizations going up against HRE want to deny the gold, want to pressurize them, deny the fast castle type of play. At the same time, the fact that the HRE chew through their food very, very quickly does mean they often need to rely on other resources, whether it be deer camps and berries, which this map is terrible for Wham. I gotta say, 2 deer camps forward, berries relatively far away. I mean, it does have 1 berries that you start off with quite close, obviously, as you'd expect, and it is at the back, to be fair, but the gold is going to be an issue. I wonder whether Wham's going to decide to put some out towers out there preemptively. We will have to see. Of course, Jeanne d'Arc faction will also need to be looking to get onto the deer camps as well nice and early, especially if they do start to pump out those Royal Knights, because they're very heavy on the food cost rather. That's something that has to be brought into consideration. Either way guys, hope you guys are doing well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're on the world. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome on in. If you're watching on Twitch, which I'm streaming today live, welcome on in. How's it going? I am WW. Yeah, it's a different timing today on Twitch today. It's been a bit erratic, my streaming times. I've gone into a bit more work at the moment, like my day job, mostly because it's a bit tricky with the content creation in terms of, you know, how sustainable it is. I'm kind of in between where I'm putting quite a bit of time into content creation because I love it. It's kind of really good fun, but at the same time, I have to try and balance it, and I'm kind of streaming when I can, to be honest. I think that's kind of the strategy I'm going to have to take these days. It's going to be the Arcade Chapel, placed obviously quite close to home. We can't really venture out too far with these landmarks anymore, especially when you're up against the Jeanne d'Arc faction. Going to be going to the wood quite close by in stone, so possibly a second town centre. I mean, it's kind of interesting because that kind of change has shaken things up a little bit. It's not a big change with the marching drills, but it feels it has big implications and big impacts. And I wonder whether we'll see an extended feudal age. Going to get a mill nice and early for that wheelbarrow, which is going to be pretty decent to get those villages out of harm's way if those knights do come into play, which I'm sure they will. Now, School of Cavalry obviously being built by the Jeanne d'Arc faction. Interestingly enough, only Jeanne's building it. Now, she does get a boost in terms of build speed. Sometimes we do see extra villages going out to build as well. Going on to stone, interesting. So possibly a second town centre even for the Jeanne d'Arc faction. Maybe we'll see an extended feudal age for both players. What's kind of interesting with this matchup is I think it can be played in very different ways. Like, Jeanne d'Arc faction can stay in the feudal age and contest civilizations that do go to the castle age pretty well because of that French Royal Knight unit. Got the mobility, can try to deny those relics, and well, we're jumping ahead of the game because we don't really even know if the HRE will go for a fast castle. Kind of cheeky here where I'm pushing at the deer camp, just making the gathering a little bit less efficient. I say a little bit, it's actually a lot less efficient now. I wonder if he's going to get survival techniques as well. Could be potential, but going to be opting for wheelbarrow, at least for now. Going to be opening up with the barracks, which, of course, those units now, the spearmen, will be moving a little bit faster than they once used to without the marching drills coming in instantly. And I think that really helps, actually, to chase down those knights, to get into position quickly. Very solid. With that number of villages on stone for Puppypaw, it certainly will be a second town centre, and I think a lot of the map generation comes down to that, because of course the deer camps are so far forward that to protect that source of food is tricky, right? So why not do it with a town centre? I think we're kind of fully expecting to get a town centre here. Although having said that, placing the mill there does suggest maybe something else, maybe a bit more conservative with his town centre. A bit closer to home, maybe on that gold and wood line, just to protect the gold income, which is of course something that the Jeanne d'Arc faction will want to do. Has queued up that first Royal Knight on the right side of the map. puppypaw will be up against the walls coming up for Wham. He's going to wall up on this left side and just keep the economy safe and secure for now. And I like it because actually, if he doesn't manage to get onto the map, and he does have to farm around the Ark and Chapel, well, he's got a good way to do that because at the back. It's got quite heavy on stone, so it's going to be a second town centre as well for Wham. He thought about getting the tower, but decided against it and switched up the plans. In fact, was that a bit of a bait? Like, I didn't actually see when he deleted it, but did he show his hand of that outpost and then delete it? Could have been an option, could have been possible. Either way, Jeanne moving forward and looked to put an outpost on that gold vein, no doubt. It's something we're seeing quite a lot more often, actually. I feel like a lot of civilizations these days have been outpost rushing a bit more potential for them to do so, although maybe she's just getting some information. Spearman curiously in this position, which is actually fully walled up. I suspect those guys might move out. Now, second town centre placement wise for the HRE, I mean, it feels like it's got to be on gold, right? Because that area does need to be secured at some point. Looks like the stone villagers moving away now for Jeanne. Where will they be off to? Is it going to be the berries? It looks like it might even be the berries in Woodline. Interesting choice. And in fact, it's going to be even further than that, even the deer camp, which is kind of exciting to see because a lot of matchups is difficult to really make that work. To going super far out on the town centre because of the aggression that can come in, but of course, Jeanne should have that map control. Deleted that mining camp, in fact, to get that second town centre. He's going to commit to it. Does have a lot of spearmen, to be fair, and Jeanne's not the most strongest unit at this stage of the game, and but his garrison inside the town centre will mean he should be able to make it work. Holy Wrath comes out there on their spearmen to take out a decent amount of damage on those units. Going to start torching down those. I mean, the good thing about the number of spearmen that Wham has is no real potential for the knights to do too much damage. That second town centre will go up nice and securely. Same will be said for puppypaws on a really nice spot. Look at the deer right underneath the town centre. Welcome in everyone on Twitch. How's it going, Feedy Caliber? How's it going, Crackety? Hope you're doing well, buddy. Yes, an early morning stream. I was just saying a little bit earlier that I just wanted to get a stream involved and I wanted to get some games casted, to be honest. Been a bit erratic, some of the streams these days, last couple of days. I've been working a bit more, so I got a bit of maybe 2-3 hours to stream. I figured, why not? Let's fire up the stream and get some games good games casted. School Cavalry does have the consecration now, so that'd be a lot cheaper for those knights. I think it's a really nice bonus that Jeanne gets above and beyond what the French get. Of course, the French do get a similar sort of bonus, but they have to wait for the keep, they have to wait for the castle age to build the stables around their keeps and everything. So it's obviously, you don't get it this early, that's for sure. That discount is very nice. Jeanne uses the Holy Wrath. Spearman, I'm not sure if they actually... I think they got away with that. I don't think they got hit by that. Either way, the movement speed for the marching drills is looking really good. Like, this would never usually happen. It does get the Holy Wrath massively there. It gets 8 XP and uses Divine Restoration to heal on up. But it's definitely a certain dynamic that's changed with that marching drills. I'm harping on about it, but it just feels so good for them now to play that extended feudal age. And what's kind of concerning for Jeanne is while she does have a lot of map control, ultimately the economy for the HRE is just a heck of a lot better, right? Going matching like for like is really nice for HRE. The 40% buffering in terms of gather speed, it's kind of hard for Jeanne to kind of keep up with that. She's going to have to do some damage. Speaking of which, that damage possibly coming in now. Knight just riding on in, but again, spearman in position. Going for archers as well, added in. Plenty of villages and gold. So second town centre in the castle age for Jeanne. Quite likely to be the same for the HRE. Now, this is going to be an issue where contesting for relics could be a thing. Now, bear in mind, despite the greater economy for HRE, although I think the times will be relatively similar, and the fact is that the time is going to be really important to get hold of those relics safe and secure. I'm sure it's going to be Regis Cathedral play, at least you would anticipate so. Spearman pushing the villages away from gold, which is pretty big, and it forces Jeanne into archers, which is not something that Destiny don't want to do. Knight archer play is pretty nice for Jeanne. Gets a bit of a charge on the scout. Scout's got to get out of there. Does get out of there in time and should be able to run away. Spearman chasing on in. So it's going to wall up on the right side. And I love these walls actually because it doesn't necessarily feel like he's protecting it huge amounts, but this back gold, whilst it's back, it's still pretty open to be attacked without those palisades. And so getting that decent and getting a knight there as well, great value. They chase down the archers as well. And this is the thing actually, without marching drills, the spearmen can't necessarily chase down those archers when they're in single numbers. Of course, when they start to mess up, the spearman will just need to back away. I think he probably needs to commit here because he's going to lose them anyway. The archers getting involved, maybe look to try and get some damage on Jeanne. Grouping up together. 3 of the spearmen did survive, and I just keep him alive for now. Pushing this back away a little bit. Either way, walls go up on the right side. And can protect that one relic already. So that's nice and safe and secure. Looks like actually instead of Castle Age, both players are actually... They're just pumping. They're just pumping. Although it does definitely feel like Puppy wants to get there, of course. A lot of the gold will be going into night production, but that's a lot of villages and gold. So definitely posturing towards that Castle Age. Goes on in. Holy Wrath comes up on the spearman, which is massive, by the way, because the spearman numbers starting to dwindle. Does mean those archers are relatively exposed to those French Royal Knights. Holy Restoration comes out and trying to snap out Jeanne. He doesn't quite manage it. Jeanne survives with 14 HP and has to back away. Now the good thing for marching drills is it does affect archers as well. So they can run away, but obviously they can't run faster than cavalry. Going for the boar as well in the north. So this is the great thing about Jeanne and the map control. Oh, does lose a villager there. That's uncharacteristic for puppypaw. But overall, I think it's definitely going to be a similar sort of timing. Those knights still running around and archers getting some damage out of this. Neither player has a blacksmith just yet, but what I got to say is WAM does have that great farming transition. 40% gather rate on these farms extra, and eventually there's going to come a timing where Jeanne does run out of food, right? On the boar and the deer camp. Not that it's coming anytime soon, there's still a lot of food to be gathered off the map. But I'd say another 10 minutes, I might hit Jeanne a little bit hard, and Jeanne will need that farming transition. That could be a window of opportunity, actually, and it could be a nice window, because by that time, it might be the case that the HRE actually have got a lot of those relics. And speaking of relics, it's going to be the Regent's Cathedral as we kind of anticipated and expected. That's going up quick time. 13 villagers on that. In terms of relic positioning, I mean, this relic is necessarily, it's not necessarily going to be too easy to get, being in the middle of the map, and the number of units that Jeanne gets on the map at this stage of the game makes it a lot more easier to protect those relics. Does charge on in, doesn't quite get a villager kill there. But one thing to bear in mind is with the early tacking into barracks and spearmen, it does allow him now to go for man-at-arms, maybe with heavy maces eventually. Be interesting to see how WAM plays this one out. Does it go for crossbows, man-at-arms? Could be an option. Gold's going to be a critical resource for that, of course. It's going to be the guild hall for Jeanne. Looking to get the palisade walls as well, just to protect the economy whilst they are being out-teched from the feudal age to the castle age. But yeah, I like the positioning for puppypaw. At this stage of the game, really have to think about those relics and how best to deny them. And, well, as they say sometimes, attack is sometimes the best form of defense. Cheekily taking some berries there with the villager. Now there is that castle age. I mean, it wasn't too far off in terms of timing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a monastery go down pretty quickly for puppypaw. Kind of expecting to see it. Does have a blacksmith with the upgrades coming in, and there it is. There's that monastery as we'd anticipate, and good few villagers building it. Want to get it up quick time, and Jeanne going to get the sacred sites. I love this play, by the way. I don't know why I like it so much. I think it's partly because I've been focused on it a lot since the release of Sultan's Ascend DLC. I think there was a period of time where people were often ignoring this ability, especially in this time of the game where Jeanne typically has a lot of map control. It makes a lot of sense to keep her active and use her on the map to get those sacred sites. It's you know, it's free gold after all, so why not? Alright, with some of the upgrades about to come in for WAM, the question is whether he pushes on out. I think he kind of has to, because going with Regent's Cathedral, it feels bad if you don't get the relics. It does actually sneak in that first relic, obviously, that was close to home. Struggling to really get on top of the others. Puppypaw keeping 2 knights on this one. Does have the veteran Royal Knight upgrade as well. And yeah, with the full map control, it really makes it a good playstyle for Jeanne to be able to deny those relics, which is the HRE kind of something they really want to get. And you can see he's trying to contest for that middle one, right? Knight's about to dive in. Just getting some damage on them. Veterancy upgrades coming in for Puppypaw really quickly, by the way. The veterancy on the archers only just coming in now for WAM, and that will change things. Oh, will he be able to smash and grab this? I'm not so sure. Spearman numbers not looking too great for WAM. Knights are going to surround and get good value. And I mean, the thing is, I don't think he's going to be able to get away with this. Those knights, he might just, but at what cost? He's going to lose a lot of army. He's definitely brought it a lot closer to home. Ooh, does he just try and dive this puppypaw? I think he can't. I think spearman numbers are okay, and he does manage to get it in the end. I think... wait, WAM, what are you doing? Run! Run! Oh no, that was an oversight. Oof, that's bad. Such a small detail, right? And yeah, that's massive. Not only because of the timings of the Relic now not being in, but also he lost a prelate for it. It's still technically contestable here for puppypaw. Going for more barracks, so really looking to spam out those spearmen. Maybe adding a couple more crossbows will be helpful for him, that's for sure. But starting to build that death ball of army. Behind this, with 2 sacred sites and a relic coming in for Jeanne, not looking in too bad shape as well. About to take the fight. Knights are pretty low in health, I've got to say. Jeanne running on in now with it. Oh, she goes down. That's massive, by the way, because she is still only level 2. And that's critical because, you know, she's not tanky. You can see how quickly she was taken down. Jeanne fell. She does come back again. Gonna get that outpost on the gold now. Needs to keep that gold safe and secure, but I think this is a critical moment in the game. This walling up on this right side, keeping this area safe. Because that gold vein is going to be needed very soon. Interesting not taking the relic into the outpost. Oh no, he is taking the relic into the outpost now. He's walking in a different direction. This prelate, where is he off to? Holy smokes, that's brave, isn't it? Is he really going to go for that relic on the... I mean... Well, it was worth a try. It was worth a try. Puppypaw is aware of the problem here. I mean, to be fair, these Arbiter maybe just auto aggroed, but anyway, gets taken down and pushing on in. I mean, military numbers looking great here for WAM, right? The economy is starting to really kick in, and I think this is a tricky one for Jeanne, right? Because it's hard to kill the Holy Roman Empire early, and the economy is just much better. It looks similar in terms of village counts, but that's just not quite the case. 40% buffering on the prelate and the HRE gathering rate. You can tell that whilst it doesn't necessarily look like it in terms of resources coming in, though, I've got to say though, although wood is a big thing. Wood is definitely coming in thick and fast for the HRE. Starting to take the fight. I mean, with the Arbitraire mass building up for puppypaw, that could be pretty helpful. We'll deal with the spearmen and the crossbows that are coming out for WAM, as well as the man-at-arms. Arbitraire, as we know, for Jeanne is such a strong unit. It's actually taking into horsemen now, puppypaw. He's had enough of those knights, considering the number of crossbows are out for the HRE. Spearman brace against the horsemen. Jeanne is up to tier 3 now. Does use a Holy Wrath on the infantry mass on the front line. Only 2 man-at-arms get taken down pretty quickly. Arbitraire looking really strong here for Jeanne. Having to back away. Not much of a meat shield here for WAM, I've got to say. Holy Wrath comes out. Jeanne does go down, but the Holy Wrath ability did a lot of damage on the infantry mass, and it's not looking too great. I mean, it comes down to numbers. I think puppypaw doesn't necessarily quite have enough numbers, but there's not much of a meat shield for either player. That's the main thing. Did deploy the PVs, but has to back away, and overall that's a great fight for WAM. It's going to push this back, and bear in mind the big thing, marching drills, don't forget it. The movement speed, I mean, there's a real risk puppypaw will lose everything on the retreat unless he gets out there quickly. These archers are just faster. 1.38. It might not lose everything, but it's going to lose a decent amount. He's taking the fight now, and yeah, this is a good push out for WAM. It's the power of marching drills. Jeanne now, with how tanky she is, does use Holy Wrath on the crossbows, which is pretty heavy. Trying to back away, waiting for the spearmen to pop on in, and Jeanne getting valuable XP. Divine Restoration comes out to heal those units all out, and you see the walls now being carved up. Trying to get hold of that sacred site on the west side, and even further forward for the extra gold vein. Splitting up the map, and yep, scout. The prelate earlier was a scout. There's a new meta. Red Palace coming up. I wasn't anticipating that, but a relatively fast-ish Imperial on the back of this. It's kind of crazy how it's been able to afford this. I guess the Guildhall definitely helped with that. And the Red Palace on the 8,000 gold vein and the stone end. This is a nice spot, I gotta say. Like, at this stage of the game, 20-minute mark, you always start to think about the gold veins, the 8,000 gold veins, and he's gonna secure that. But not only that, the 4,000 and the stone as well. That's very significant. Alright, getting that sacred site. Now, that could be a win condition, actually. I'm surprised that puppypaw hasn't gone for that. That third one. Up in the north. Just to force the HRE out a little bit. Does have the boar. Now, I've got to say, these walls are quite significant. There's a lot of resources behind it. Deer, gold, and the boar. That's the 8,000 gold vein we're talking about. Look at that food coming in for WAM. I don't think it'll be too long before it gets to the Imperial Age, and Palace of Swabia could be a thing. I mean, with 96 villagers, though, do you really go for Palace of Swabia? I think The issue about going for Palace of Swabia is I think it still makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you're going up against puppypaw and, well, Jeanne really in particular, if you do get raided heavily, then, I mean, ultimately, with the Palace of Swabia, it's very difficult to be raided to death as the HRE. You just keep pumping out units, villages rather. And so I think it offers a lot more than just the booming potential. It also offers the recovery potential. Of course, you do have the other landmark, which effectively acts as a keep, but I think the HRE's Palace of Swabia is a landmark that just offers so much, both in terms of booming, but also recoverability. Arsenal Rabalatria coming out now. With Wham still in the castle age, brother, this is quite significant. This is quite a big lead time on the Imperial age. I think puppypaw has a really good window to attack here because of the fact that it's going to go for the Elsbach Palace in the end. Yeah, so I think it makes sense in the sense that he's quite delayed to the Imperial age compared to the Jeanne d'Arc faction. And so he needs that security. Because, take a look at this. These guys are heavily upgraded. Elite Arbalatria. Cavalry upgrades about to come on in. Crossbow stirrups as well for the Arbalatria. It's increased by 25% attack speed, as well as the third ranged damage upgrade. Balanced projectiles. In fact, that's the second, rather. But yeah, with Elsbach Palace, that'll buy some time. I think it makes a lot of sense in this particular game context. Because, of course, it needs to protect those farms in a big way. Because of the delay in terms of the Imperial Age, puppypaw, of course, once Elsbach Palace does come on in, I'm sure puppypaw will be looking to be aggressive. I've got to say that miniature numbers are looking pretty hefty for Wham. I think it's got a lot to defend with. Like, when you do go to the next stage and you're behind your enemy in terms of that front, you want to have either a good standing army or static defenses. And, I mean, ultimately, Wham's got both. Looking to just burn his way through on the west side. Pushed off of deer, which is a thing, but that villager is going to have to walk quite far to get those farms food back into the mill. But there is that Imperial Age, and maybe now puppypaw pushes on in, but I think Wham's got a lot. Look how many units he's got. And sure, it'll take some time for the tech ups to come in. Why is he not queuing them up? He's got 3,000 food, 1,500 gold, and yeah, there it is. He's queuing them up now. Upgrading for elite spearmen, elite archers. What's a kind of concern though for Wham is a couple of siege engines for puppypaw could do wonders. Spearmen pushing these villages off for gold. Gold has been mined out anyway, but gonna take the fight. Oh, those cavalry is gonna get absolutely demolished by the spearmen. Holy Restoration comes out for Jeanne. Will it be enough though? He's losing a lot of numbers. I mean, this is a big fight, and Wham should be able to win it. Bear in mind, the Arbitrator is trying to retreat, but the movement speed will be on the side of the HRE with marching drills. He's pushing them on out. But they keep in a really strong position. I love this, actually, this play. If you're not going to win a fight, at least make that map positioning count for you, solidify it a little bit. And one thing that's a bit of concern for the HRE is gold. It's actually a big concern because it doesn't really have any map control over it. This 8,000 gold vein is very firmly in the grasp of puppypaw, as is the one in the north. And that could be a big game breaker, a big feature in this match. Now, Wham does have a bit of time to build up forces to move out with, but he's going to do it quickly. Getting an outpost on the front just to give it a little bit of extra protection. Be interesting to see if it does decide to put a relic inside it. Jeanne getting that extra sacred site. It is coming out with the keep and stone wall, and I think again it comes down to how well this is kind of escalated, right? The Red Palace in this area, although he's not actually gathered the stone from this area, but he can do if he wishes to gather the stone from elsewhere. This is massive. I love how puppypaw is denying the gold in this way. That this gold vein, this is something that Wham is going to need to rely on. Yeah, this is only 1,000 gold in that remaining, and this is diminishing quickly. It's about 4,000 gold to play with. This one's going to be completely denied, of course. This is a nice play by puppypaw. Now, Elsbach Palace does give a couple of technologies that you can get, of course. Increased health of walls and towers and gates. The slate and stone construction. Extra fire armor. As if it wasn't bad enough that they get emergency repairs. Trying to stonewall on the west side, which Wham actually walks past. I mean, he might spot that in a second. He's going to try and burn his way through and push on in. This could be dangerous. Like, we talked about having the bounce ability, or I guess the recoverability of the Palace of Swabia. We don't have that today with the HRE, and so if there is raiding coming in from these horsemen, that could pose a significant problem, I gotta say. Speaking of raiding, looks like Wham gonna get a bit of a raid on his own on the west side. Here are the horsemen. Spearmen on position to try and protect. Getting some outposts, I think this is a smart move, right? If you don't have the ability to produce a lot of villagers quickly, you've got to make sure they're protected, and the Elsbeth Palace definitely going to help with that on the farms. The west side, those farms, speaking of farms, those guys are dying. Farms are being abandoned, and both players are pretty much reaching that 200 population cap, so we might start to see a bit of a meat grinder situation of the game. Bombard here for Wham. Gets sniped really quickly by the horseman. The horseman will die eventually, but it's definitely a good trade-off. Because gold units are always precious at this stage of the game. Going to get Siege Workshop needs to get control of this area. It's kind of interesting how puppypaw has opted for the stone rather than gold. He wants to get more keeps and static defenses. He could actually potentially look to get the gold to try and deny as much as possible from his enemy. Instead, he's going to deny the stone. I've got to say, miniature numbers now for Wham really starting to dwindle down. He's taking some suboptimal fights, and he kind of feels the pressure a little bit because of it, I think. Because of this pressurize on this area of the map, and look at this, taking this gold vein as well. Really limiting the gold that HRA can take, and bear in mind, with only 2 relics, it's not terrible with the Relics Cathedral, but it's not enough. It does have enough stone for a keep. I think this might be a good position for a keeper for Wham. He needs to push this area back. Bombard heading on forward. Now, the trouble with the Bombard, has got to make sure it's safe and secure and protected, because those horsemen might dive on it at any moment. Kind of caught by the pathing somewhat. Does dive in with the cavalry. Holy Wrath comes up for Jeanne, and, well, those villagers... Wait, is wood an issue? It looks like wood might be an issue for Wham. We'll take a look at the wood lines in just a moment, but let's just see out this fight. Those cavalry units dying pretty quickly. Jeanne does get Holy Wrath on the archer numbers of those villagers for Wham. This is massive. He's losing a lot. I mean... Losing these villagers, we talked about it earlier, not having the Palace of Swabia. Holy Wrath comes out on the villagers, slays so many of them, does retreat to the Elsbeth Palace, but Wham's production capability of those villagers is not what it could be without that Palace of Swabia. One good thing for Wham's situation overall is that the population efficiency should be a little bit better, considering the farms are 40% better at this point. But Wham definitely needs to take care of this area. This is a critical moment. Actually has consecration on the siege workshops. We're looking to get those culverins, or cannons rather. That could be problematic. Does they get to keep here on the right side, Wham, just to make sure not all the gold gets mopped up, but I mean, puppypaw's taken a huge chunk of it. And yeah, wood is an issue. Wood is a big issue. There's a massive wood line here, and HRE is slowly getting suffocated. Hand cannoneers, though, for the HRE will do so much work against the cavalry. Jeanne uses her Holy Wrath ability. She hasn't died in a while, which is huge for puppypaw. 2 cannons will help take down the infrastructure and the cannon outposts. But take a look at that. Emergency repair comes in. There's a cannon, or the bombard for the HRE. May try to push that back somewhat. Does get a hit, but if the cannons deploy on the bombard, that will go down really quickly. Arbaletier trying to hold that line against the hand cannoneers. They're doing pretty well so far, the Arbaletier. Springwall's added into the mix as well. Jeanne comes back onto the battlefield. Slowly but surely, the HRE, their economy is in exposed areas in the north, and this could be an area for raiding for puppypaw if he spots it. Slowly but surely, Puppy is starting to get a stranglehold in the game. Heading into the 30-minute mark, and this is definitely where gold becomes an issue. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that whilst the economy is a bit stronger for the HO with the 40% gathering, of course, consecration makes these units cheaper for Jeanne. It really helps. Arbaletier mass looking pretty strong. Horse, we're going to try and dive on top of the spearmen. I thought they were going to wrap around on the back line. They didn't quite just do that. They're going to take a spearman out first. Either way, Holy Restoration comes down. Divine Restoration, rather, for Jeanne to heal up those units. Going to dive on a little bit, but got to be careful about the Elsbeth Palace. Gonna have to wait for the cannons to push on in, and this is a bit of a death ball of army, I gotta say. It does have the cavalry in the HRE, getting a bit of a raiding with Spim around the back. But they probably won't do any too critical damage. Oh, villagers on the south with the prelate, working at 3 prelates in fact. Needs to grab as much wood as possible. Wood is certainly an issue. Jeanne though, now with level 4, going to do a lot of damage. Can help take out the culverin. Dives on in. Holy Wrath on the spearmen front line. Horsemen diving in on the farms, and the Elsbeck man is under siege from the cannons. Puppypaw looking in a good spot, but I think the cavalry will die pretty quickly now. Diving a little bit too deep, and that's a lot of hand cannoneers. They should be able to hold for the next sort of 4 or 5 minutes, I think. I don't think you can push him just yet, Puppypaw, but he's mounting. He's mounting a lot. He's getting units on the field for sure. Continues to wall up, and their bigger concern is the denying of trade. Like, that could be another option to gather gold here for WAM. I mean, not with this kind of RNG and map spawn. The market's right in the middle of the map. It's just not really an ideal spawn at all, I think. And this wood line. Hey, there's a wolf. Well, how many villagers is killed? Ah, he spots it now. Down goes the wolf. Wood line in the north as well. Yeah, this is an issue. Like, wood is becoming a problem. There's a lot of units for WAM. I mean, this could be an important push. If he can regain some map control again on key resources, namely wood and gold, I think that's got to be the name of the game for WAM at this point. But with 3 cannons, it will be tricky. Oh, they're kind of pathing weird, though, because of the stone walls. Not really being able to get on in. Spearmen chasing the horsemen on the right side, and that's a lot of units to be pulled away for that. But Spearmen diving on in. There's a bit of a choke point. Arbitrator within the crevices of the 2 stone walls. That's a really nice choke point, actually. But I don't think they were to stay there for too long. Has to back away. Oh, that's a lot of horsemen. I mean, there's a couple of spearmen, but horsemen getting some value. WAM down to 94 villagers, which does allow some population room for military. But he's got to be careful because he needs... Oh, those hand cannoneers. No, they went to the front line. That's not where they wanted to be. And oh, that really hurt. He lost a lot there because of that. Cannons on the back line for Jeanne. Horsemen going up against this Spim, which is not ideal. Arbitrator trying to do as much as they possibly can. The Spim will take out those horsemen in a massive way. Wasn't too devastating in the end, but yeah, you can see WAM having to pull back those hand cannoneers, what remains of them, which is not a lot, 5 of them. That's huge because those units are very difficult to replace. You need the gold, and that's something that, well, WAM just does not have much of at this point. Making a move for the north gold now at this point. Giving up on this area. 8,000 gold vein almost taken out there for Puppypaw. But yeah, this is certainly a game of starvation. The HRE are starving at this point. Alright, well, 2 more cannons moving on in for Puppypaw on that choke point. Gotta be careful. Spim going to charge on in, and Arbitrator about to deploy. Might lose one though. Does lose a cannon. Body blocks a little bit with the Arbitrator. I mean, I think this is a decent trade though for WAM. I've got to say, if he's taking out Arbitrator with his Spearman, that's quite nice. I mean, a full Spearman is actually a nice play here for WAM, especially with the mobility. But he's got to deal with his Arbitrator numbers if he can, although trying to take out the cannon, I think he might just about get it in fact. And we'll have to see, I think it will. Sacred Site in the north now has been finally capped. Oh, does he? Yeah, he gets it in the end. So I think overall decent trade. Ultimately, food and wood is an okay-ish resource. Well, wood might be a bit tricky, but food is fine for the HRE. But look at the bank of resources, right? 4,000, 5,000 of each resource in terms of gold and food at least. 5,000 gold in the bank. Yeah, Puppypaw certainly in a commanding position. WAM's going to need to do something quick. It's going to need to do it as soon as possible. Yeah, looks like he's definitely switching his attention to the north now. Can't help but think, though, if he had another 10, 15 hand cannoneers, he did lose a lot in this position here earlier. That could be a difference maker. Jeanne about to ride on in, does use Holy Wrath, trying to get as much value from those abilities as possible. She does ride on away. And she's really, really powerful at this stage of the game. Oh, he's trading. Puppypaw's trading. Yeah, he's starting to get into it. 7 of them already. Cavalry can't really engage with this number of spearmen. Divine Restoration comes out on all those units, and hand cannoneers and spearmen focusing on the cavalry, but the big issue is the artillery MS. That's going to be hard to clear on up. The hand cannons trying to do as much damage as possible, but hanging out in the stealth forest is going to become a problem. Now there is a mangonel coming out being repaired as well, and that's a dangerous sight. We talked about it earlier in the game where the mass infantry from the HRE is really vulnerable to the mangonels, and puppypaw, he's starting to tech into that. That's going to be a problem for the HRE. The reason why it's a big problem is that, well, ultimately if the HRE decide to go for horsemen, it's tricky because, like, even though they're technically a direct counter to the arbaletier, with gambesons and the melee armor it offers the arbaletier, it makes horsemen a really bad unit, I feel, in what they can do against the Jeanne d'Arc faction, or the French for that matter. And so without cavalry, it's going to have to find another way to deal with the siege. It's going to need springles. It's going to probably need to commit to infantry and springles, add in a couple. Trouble with that is he doesn't have the wood for it. He's now starting to make inroads on the west side. Bombard, working hard. Villagers coming out to repair. Spin will take care of those villagers, and maybe there's a way he gets back onto gold once again. Did actually take the gold here in the north, but that's all expired. So you can see him scrambling for the gold on the west side. How much is left? That's the question. I mean, it's a sizable amount. 5,000 is nothing to be snuffed at. That's pretty decent. Springwell's getting some value. Spearmen chase it down, though. I wonder how much trade is coming in. 8 traders, getting 80 gold. Not too shabby. Gonna keep to deny any sort of pressure from that trade and keep it safe and secure. Yeah, villagers, you can see how desperate he is for gold. He's preemptively sending them despite the keep only just going down now. Gotta get some static defenses first with those outposts. Cannon placement to keep on the right side. Oh god, this is not a fight that I think Wham can take him. There's a mangonel behind there. Arbaletier going to work pretty well against the spearman. And Jean too. And I mean, HR are going to lose a lot, but he kind of has to fight almost because he's going to lose the keep otherwise. And if he loses the keep, that's another big kick in the teeth. Yeah, trying to get as much value as you can, but you can see the Arbaletier just chew through all of that. Emergency repairs comes up to keep the keep alive for a little bit longer. But it feels like it's only a matter of time, and Sexart in the southwest does get decapped, or was challenged. He's getting gold, but he needs to redirect the forces now to the northern area. Villagers coming out to repair, but he's losing a lot. Puppypaw's got so many resources in the bank, right? Wham's done a great job of trying to hold and protect and try and keep up the pressure, but with that man-at-arms coming on in, man-at-arms Arbaletier, this is a killer army. There's no way of dealing with that army composition. It's going to be a matter of time. A strong army for sure, and how do you deal with that if you're Wham without gold? It's almost impossible. I think it's the sheer bank of resources, right? Puppypaw can just move his units on in. Even if he takes suboptimal trades, he can replace his army. But the same cannot be said for Wham. Does have a lot of hand cannoneers, but overall, it doesn't really feel like that's the unit he needs. I think the numbers here are starting to overwhelm. 80 military to 52. Wham starting to be overrun a little bit. He does have one cannon there to start taking out infrastructure as well. Mangonel always looking to dish out damage, pushing away the hand cannoneers, and that's always a fear factor, right, for Wham. He always has to back away. He's being zoned out of his own base. Zoned out of the map slowly but surely. Puppypaw moving on in. And you can see the constant blue trickle of units. Man-at-arms, Arbaletier, premium units at this stage of the game. It's exactly what he needs, and Wham spending everything he's got. Giving it everything he's got. Jean pretty low on health, though. I mean, she could get sniped, but ultimately, that's only one piece of the puzzle. That's only one piece of the problem. Does a lot of production that will take time to get through, but slowly but surely, he's getting through it. Puppypaw takes out the outpost, which will deny another relic, so only one relic gold coming in. And the villagers here mopping up the gold, but once that expires, where does Wham go? And even if he doesn't expire from that gold, I think the game is looking rough, especially with 4 cannons. Right, this is where the infrastructure is going to start to perish really quickly, because there's no way that Wham can deal with that. He's got hand cannoneers trying to hold on as long as he can. And Puppypaw, he's ahead on the military for sure. 200 population, Whammed up to 150, and it feels like it's a really difficult hold here. And the question is, if he can hold, where does he go from there? without gold. It's going to be too tough. Doesn't have trade as an option either. Especially because of the stone walls on this west side. That's really what denies the trade, and yeah, that's never going to be coming down anytime soon. Infrastructure going down on the front. Hand cannon is hiding behind the barracks, in the nooks and crannies, in the checkpoints. Down to 37 military. Whilst his population count is healthy, they're not gathering the resources he needs, and he doesn't have the banker resources he needs, and puppypaw going to start getting outposts in the forward positions just to solidify those cannons and make sure that they're not caught out of position. And slowly but surely, this is the death push that puppypaw is going to be seeing out the game. Wham! Needs to find a way to deal with Arbitrary Massive if it's going to have any chance of coming back into the game. Does have the emergency repairs coming out of the barracks, but get the feeling it's not going to be enough. Looks like the premium unit, the Arbitrary for Jeanne, proving its worth. Going to actually steal that relic in the end as well. A bit of a smash and grab. And I think puppypaw, there it is. Wham! He bows out, he taps out, he realizes that there's no way back from here. Just a huge death ball of army, Arbitrary, man-at-arms, the cannons from Jeanne d'Arc faction. Take the game on Dry Arabia. I hope you guys enjoyed this casted game. And if you did on YouTube, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Take care, and see you next time.